What do communists understand? We talk about this all the time, you and I. What do they understand? Two things. Only two things. You can try to reason with your liberal Aunt Peggy. You can try to bring her facts. See that you can do all these things, but communists only understand fear and pain. We don't like talking like that. It sounds too dark, but that's all they understand. They're religious zealots. How would you deal with a radical jihadi? He only understands fear and pain. You're not going to talk him out of it. Well, how do we visit pain on the communists in a legal way? Because that's what we want to be. Legal, nonviolent. We want to win. Robby Starbuck is one of the people. He is killing it out there in his own way. He's going after these corporations. The second most damaging thing the communists ever took over in this country is the corporate world. The first is the education system, but the corporate world. They take all of our money and they use it against us, against our own country, against our own values. And Robby sniffed this out, and he's been dragging these companies out into the public, and now he's put the fear of God in them. Joining me now, my friend, filmmaker, and activist, Robby Starbuck. Robby, this is your mission, not mine. I don't have anything to do with it. So you tell me, what are you doing?
Well, essentially, it's not lost on me. Yes, I've had a thesis for quite some time that, we're facing a threat from New Age communists. And really, the only thing that's different with them that is really important is that they no longer need to seize the means of production to be a communist. That's sort of like what our grandparents had in their head about communism, and it was a central part of Marxism. However, these New Age communists understood something very important. That doesn't look so good to average normal people when the state comes in and seizes everything, right? So why would you take the optic hit of admitting you're a communist and seizing the means of production if you could just seize the minds of the people in charge of production? So your corporate CEOs, your board of directors, so on and so forth. And so for the past, I'd say, decade to 15 years, there's been a concerted effort to fill those boards and the C-suite with as many people as they can who are ideologically minded in the same direction they are, or who can be controlled. And so when you looked at this issue, and why I've been very successful getting companies to drop their crazy policies, from A to Z, it's really that nobody's taken this on in a way that is an approach that has like an actual battle plan, and ours is that we recognize this all was built up through accelerationism after George Floyd. They used George Floyd as sort of the excuse to bring a bunch of this stuff in. And you had a lot of radicals empowered in the process because CEOs either were along for it because they're true believers, or they were deathly afraid of being called racist, which is one of the most insane things ever. I mean, anybody who has that frame of mind, I will never understand. But essentially, we understood that accelerationism brought us here. So how do we move the Overton window back to sanity? Because people are tired. That's kind of the general mood I get in the country is most people are just really tired of the BS. They're tired of all the crazy woke stuff. So we've had that exhaustion set in. So there's a lot of public support for what we're doing. And we realized if we want this to be successful, we need to target the companies that primarily depend on conservative consumers first, because we're such a sizable cross-section of their customers that they can't survive without us. And Bud Light already put a lot of fear into them because they saw, these people will use their wallets as a weapon. And that was just a starting point. So we identified the companies kind of off the bat that are the ones that we could really move, and so we did that. We started with Tractor Supply, got them to drop all their crazy policies, then John Deere. And then this was a very important one because 3 is where you go from, that's cool. That's, maybe kind of a happy circumstance of a lot of different accidents happening. And maybe this company just, decided to do the right thing. But when you get to 3, it's now a pattern, right? And psychologically, that was a very important company, Harley Davidson, that we chose to be number 3 because they had a true believer as CEO. So it was going to be a David versus Goliath battle between the true believer and the people, myself and sort of all the people that I represent through what we're doing. And I think they wanted to dig their heels in, but they only lasted 3 weeks because the damage was immense. We went at them with the fire and vigor that our politicians should be going after every issue in this country. We were relentless in every step. And so they couldn't take the barrage. And ultimately what happened is, we timed this around the Sturgis event. And Sturgis is the largest biker event in the country, but maybe the world. And so when Sturgis came around, you have 90% of these riders riding Harleys, and they refused to go to the Harley tents. And so Harley's tents were a ghost town. It was such an embarrassment that Bloomberg reported that Harley packed up 2 days early and went home. You had Harley riders taking their emblems off and turning them in. It was just pure insanity. And at the same time, you had videos going viral online that we were putting out, but also that biker influencers were putting out, including some who blew up their Harley Davidsons as a statement piece against the CEO, saying that they were done with the brand after, decades and decades with them. So that was an important point, that inflection point of them groveling and changing. It told a lot of other corporate executives that they did not want to go through this same thing. And so something interesting started to happen. These CEOs started flipping on their policies without us ever releasing a video. We just had to reach out to them and say, hey, we're working on an investigation. Here's what we found. We want to give you the opportunity to correct anything that's wrong. And then those companies would turn right around and they would cut their policies in order to get us to not put out the negative video. And for us, it's not like a blackmail thing. It's just like, hey, we're going to put out this story unless we're wrong and there's a better story about you guys changing. So just let us know. That's been amazingly effective. We've gotten Jack Daniels and their parent company to drop their policies, Lowe's, Ford, just last week on Friday, Caterpillar, Coors, we're Indian Motorcycle. I mean, we're going down such a list now. We're well over 10 that I'm starting to forget names of some that we flipped. So that's a good sign. We're going to continue this, and it's going to be one by one until we achieve some semblance of sanity in corporate America.
Robby, I love what you're doing for a variety of reasons, but man, it just hits you when you list the way you just listed them right there. When you think about Caterpillar, I've been in the Caterpillar plant in Peoria, Illinois, on a frigging machine myself. Caterpillar, Tractor Supply, Harley. These are companies that are supposedly sharing our values, and my point is, they are people who've been taking our money and using it against us for years. It was really the ultimate takeover by the commies.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was right under our noses. And the truth is, this goes back to kind of a larger issue, right? Because you talk about education being the worst thing that has sort of been taken by the left. The reality is all of these things happened because of a few things. Number one, weakness and cowardice in men is a virus that must be eradicated. We have way too many men who don't want to get political, quote unquote. And in reality, it's just like, I don't want to be uncomfortable, okay? I don't know where these guys came from, who they were raised by, but it's time to get uncomfortable. If people think I enjoy every aspect of what I'm doing, I don't. But you have to do things that will make you maybe unpopular in certain circles, because it's important to tell the truth and do the right thing at this time, because we could lose our damn country if we don't. And beyond that, there's another thing. It's bothered me for a long time now. I think the biggest mistake the right has ever made, ever, in my lifetime at least, is the idea of adopting, embracing, and celebrating being a silent majority. It is the dumbest thing you can be a part of. I don't want to be a part of a silent majority, because silent majorities allow very loud, crazy groups of people to run your country. It allows them to dictate policy. It allows them to choose what happens in your kids' schools. A silent majority is for fools. We need to speak up, and I think more people are becoming aware of that reality, and they don't want to be part of a silent majority. They don't want to be this silent person who allows crazy people to dictate their life. So my hope is that this election can be one that marks the end of the silent majority and marks the beginning of a very loud majority who makes it clear what direction they want their country to run in, and that they will hold politicians and executives accountable if they step out of line. That's my hope, my dream. I think most people in my position, where, my family fled Cuba and they lost everything to communism, I always urge people who are like, maybe this guy is just kind of seeing things through, his own lens, his own biases. Go talk to anybody whose family has survived communism and ask them where they think this country's at right now. Ask them. You're going to get the same answers you're getting from me. All the signs are there. Every single one is there. Our country is principally trying to be taken over by radical leftists who want to create a new form of communism. And if you doubt that, you're just not paying attention. If you think that I'm not being serious when I say they are seeking to control the minds of the executives who control production, who control big business, just look at big tech. They're a great example. They act as an arm of the state for the ruling party, for the Democrats. That's a look into the future at what they want in every segment of business.
Robby, one thing that I have noticed in following your work and what you're doing, and I love this, is the human rights campaign, how they always seem to be involved with these corporations. This is not an organization the norms and normas even know about. They don't know who they are. They have no idea how powerful the HRC is, but they are extremely powerful and they are involved in corporate America. Who are they?
The HRC essentially is a radical leftist group that seeks to get Republicans out of politics. I mean, that's the best way I could put it. It's really funny. I hate calling them the Human Rights Campaign because there's nothing about them that has to do with human rights. It's like, introducing a bill in Congress called the Vote Yes If You Love Puppies Act, and then inside it mandates that you slaughter every puppy in America. In reality, the Human Rights Campaign is just an activist group that hates Republicans. Okay, they hate conservative policy, and they're advocating for the furthest left, most insane version of America you could possibly imagine. And so you have to wonder, how did it become the norm that corporations are giving them millions and millions of dollars and subscribing to this CEI index score, which is basically, it's a social credit system, okay? So corporate equality index. And in it, you have to do certain things to get a 100% score. Some of those things you have to do is provide coverage in your healthcare plan to get people sex changes. And I'm not just talking about the employees. Keep in mind, there's not an exclusion for children. So the children can get their puberty blockers and they can get their hormone treatments. And God forbid, even in the places where they allow those, I hate calling them surgeries, really mutilations. This is stuff that is underneath that 100 score at a company that they then tout. And the thing is, nobody's ever held them accountable for touting these scores. Nobody's ever held them accountable for working with a group and giving them millions of dollars whose president just said at a gala that Trump hates America and framed Republicans as an existential threat to the country. Okay? They would never give a dime to a right-wing group who was doing the opposite version of what the HRC does. That point has been one that executives, I think, are listening to, and they realize looks pretty extreme and radical. So I think we're going to continue to see corporations back away from the HRC, as they should, because they're essentially an extremist group on the far left, and there's no reason for corporations to be submitting themselves to the humiliation ritual that you essentially have to submit yourself to get a 100% score through them. And it does them precisely what? Nothing. It's a liability. There's nobody who goes to a company and goes, oh, I wonder what their HRC score is. The only reason people are wondering that now at all is because they want to see if the company is giving money or participating in this, because they don't want to do business with them if they are. There is no positive upside to these behaviors and actions that corporate America has taken. They just needed to be taken to task for it. And so that's what we're doing. We have a mission in front of us. We are going to take these companies to task one by one if necessary, to eliminate these far left extremist groups that they are supporting.
Robby, really quickly, how do people, if there is a whistleblower out there at a major corporation and they want to send in a tip or some info, how do they do that?
They can go to robbystarbuck.com. It's Robby with a Y, by the way. So ROBBY, starbuck.com/DEI. And there's a tips page where you can give us a tip about what's going on and send us evidence of what's going on. And we are blessed to have so many of those people who are giving us tips that are helping us to really bring sanity back to corporate America. That's our goal. We're not going to stop. We're not going to just sit back and let communism happen to our country. We're going to fight. And I think that's what everybody has to have in their heart. We've got to fight for this country and everything we do. We've got to stand up, use our voices, use every legal means we can to win this country back. We need a sane country again. And to get a sane country, we need sane schools. We need sane corporations. We just need sanity back. And that's going to take all of us doing our part.
No doubt. Robby, you're the man. Thank you, my brother, for what you do. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.